Welcome to Central News, I'm Amy Forrest. In today's news, a local Waikato scientist has come up with a new way to turn blood meal into plastic. The company Novatine, which is run from the Waikato University, has developed a biopolymer plastic from protein molecules which are found in blood from blood meal, otherwise used as fertiliser. Dr. Johan Verbeek says that the science behind the find was a team effort with his team of student researchers.
Well, in the School of Engineering here at Waikato University, we've been working on sustainable materials and sustainability in general. And a few years back, when this was first started, we looked at what materials are out there and what starting materials for new materials are available. And some of my colleagues have been involved in the meat industry, and before you know it, we put two and two together and we realised that we can actually make a plastic from a sustainable resource from the meat industry.
Ahopi Beach goers took part in a Harlem Shake in response to being awarded the New Zealand's Best Beach Trophy. The competition was initiated by the Green Party and run over summer to raise awareness about the risk of an oil spill from deep-sea drilling to New Zealand beaches. The Green Party, Gareth Hughes, says Ahopi Beach is close to where Petrobras had permits to conduct deep-sea drilling in the Ral-Kumara Basin, and some residents went to help out with the Rena Beach cleanups, and this was likely a catalyst for them to vote in the Best Beach competition.
Con los terroristas.
Harlem Shake.
Now for our region's weather. Hamilton, your Thursday will be fine with light winds. Your expected high is 25 and an overnight low of 11. Tauranga, your Thursday will be fine too, but you will have a few sea breezes. Your expected high is 23 and an overnight low of 16. Just ahead, riding for a good cause. Welcome to Central News on TV Central. One Waikato DHB nurse has sped up to the challenge of raising awareness for youth suicide. I spoke with Kahui Niho to find out about the Green Ribbon Ride.
Basically, the Green Ribbon Ride is to highlight the awareness centred around youth suicide here in New Zealand, not just regionally but nationally. And the ride itself is generated through motorcyclist enthusiasts and basically spearheaded by the Super Māori fellas who are made up of basically normal men who work from 9 to 5, who have a normal job, who are parents. So we're basically just like anybody else, but we're very concerned about the youth suicide rate, hence the reason why we're out on our bikes promoting this campaign.
So why did you feel the need to create this initiative?
Simply, we needed to create the awareness first. Youth suicide is a big problem, and we wanted to address the issue, not so much directly through the services, but to actually promote it and be out there physically doing the work and to basically stand up. And we want to promote it in a way that the public can actually stand up and be more, I guess, accountable to some of the signs, some of the issues that are related to youth suicide. And I guess it's about trying to support our teenagers a lot more, especially when times are hard in today's society. So having the tools and the support from your family is quite important, and hence the reason why we needed to address this issue very much.
So Kahui, can you tell us about the current statistics of New Zealand youth suicide?
I can only release the statistics that were released by Dr. Judge McLean, and if those who know him would know that he's the Chief Coroner for New Zealand. So in 2012, he released statistics in August, from a period of June 2011 to July 2012, 547 suicide-related deaths were recorded in New Zealand, and out of 132 of those were specifically from Northland. Now, what was more astounding and what was more shocking was to realise that our teenagers and youth were actually leading the statistic for suicide in Northland, so that's nationwide.
Wow, these stats are really quite alarming. So tell me, why do you think these stats are so high, and how do we compare on an international scale?
We don't know. That's the honest truth. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what's happening within each iwi or each area. You know, we've got no answers for that. But what we do know is that we're third highest rated in the world. Now, compared New Zealand to countries like Germany that we're leading behind, the Soviet Union, that the UK, it's pretty shocking to find out that we, a small country of New Zealand, are like leading third highest in the world.
So Edu, can you tell me a bit about the events that are coming up with the Green Ribbon Ride?
Well, there have been a number of events that have been set up. We fronted the first one up in Whangarei over a month ago. And that was to simply initiate, starting in the Northland area, which is actually number one highest youth rate, hence the reason why we started the campaign up there. Our second one is to be held at Hopu Hopu in Hamilton on the 23rd, which is only a couple of weeks away. And that's in support of Waikato Tainui, who are helping to support this campaign. So there's an event there that we would like all the public to come, regardless where you're from, what ethnicity you're from. And our last but not least is in Kawerau, which is the third highest in the country. So these events have been specifically targeted within their certain ranking, I guess, on a national scale. And it's important that we did it that way to highlight this issue in terms of its, I guess, ranking within the nation.
And Kahui, what is your main goal with these events?
Well, the vision of the Super Māori Fellas and the Green Ribbon campaign is to walk side by side iwi organisations and service providers and get them known to those who, there's a lot of people out there that have been waiting for the Green Ribbon campaign to come. They don't know who's out there. You know, we've spoken with families who have been affected directly by youth suicide. They don't know who to go to. So it's an important issue for us. That's our vision, is to, walk side by side, promote iwi organisations and service providers to let people know who's out there.
Wow, so this sounds like a campaign that everyone should get behind and support. So tell me, how can members of the public get involved?
The Super Māori Fellas Facebook page. As we know that a lot of teenagers are technology savvy today. I'm sure that they have phones that they can be able to check up on Facebook, and also the Super Māori Fellas website, hotmail.com.
.co.nz.
And Kahui, can you tell me what role the Waikato DHB has played in this?
So far to date, they've been responsible for mainstream media. So they did a release for our campaign. They've been supportive in regards to the campaign itself. The majority of our pre-sold T-shirts were sold within the DHB, and they're also sending along their Māori franchise too under the umbrella of the DHB.
Well, this sounds like a great cause to get involved with. Make sure you take a look to see if they are driving near a town near you. Welcome back. Although it may seem like winter is quite far away in this warm weather, there are some people out there thinking about the warmth of your winter. Hilary found out more.
It's a membership organisation, so we have national members across the country. All of our members are focused on residential energy efficiency, and predominantly they are social enterprises, so not-for-profit or community trusts.
And so who are some of those organisations that make it up?
We have organisations like Sustainability Trust in Wellington, Christchurch. We have Community Energy Action up in Kaitaia. There is Tai Tokorau Healthy Homes, and that's a couple of organisations up there. So really varied across the country.
And because you were conducting a survey, What will this be about?
So the survey is part of our Warmer Winters campaign, which is the campaign to raise awareness of fuel poverty in New Zealand. So the survey itself, which is online and also available in a hard copy form, is to really ask everyday Kiwis what it's like to live in cold homes.
And when will that be? When are you guys going to start conducting that?
So the survey's been running since December last year online. We're really starting to push it now. The hard copy surveys will be available by the end of this month, and the reason we're starting to push it now, last year it was a soft launch, but now we're moving into, realistically moving into the 2013 winter. So we really want to get people thinking about things now.
So who are you wanting to actually fill that survey out? Are you wanting, you know, kind of middle class or lower socioeconomic, or are you wanting everyone?
Well, we're not going to turn anyone away, but ideally we're looking for people within low socio-economic communities, so low income and or rental properties, but they don't have to be rental properties. You can own a house and still, the conditions can still be pretty poor, so really anyone, but if we can, the communities that our members work with are predominantly low-income communities as well, so that's our target market there.
So you guys are campaigning because you actually want a national minimum energy performance standard. Mm-hmm. Is there already one, and what does that kind of entail? No, there's not any sort of minimum energy performance standard at the moment. We would like to see that across all houses, but what we're focusing on is rental properties. So at the moment there is absolutely no standards for rental properties apart from, I think, running water and having an electricity outlet. So what we are wanting to do is just raise the standard to the bare minimum, and minimum energy performance standards could be part of a warrant of fitness, which is something that's also being discussed for rental properties at the moment. What is the bare minimum?
That we're looking for. It relates to insulation, of course. It's quite foundational. It's also ventilation. So looking at how the home, how the air circulates through the home. It's looking at removing or making sure there's little or no damp. And it's also looking at leaks and things like that. So there's removing the house of drafts, removing the house of mould, or removing the house of cold air, and just making sure that the house is actually properly insulated, so that any heating that then goes into that home actually has a better chance of heating the house.
It's the most important thing that, you know, that first original insulation.
It is foundational. Insulation's absolutely foundational, but you can insulate a home that has no heating and make it a nice box. So insulation's very, very important. There's not much point doing heat will else to the house unless the house is insulated, but there's all sorts of other things that need to be done, as I said, like drafting and making sure ventilation, making sure there's no damp and mould and leaks and that sort of thing.
And do you think the liability should lie with the renter or the landlord to take these costs up?
Well, it's interesting the use of the word liability, because we see it more as responsibility, and this is an issue for New Zealand. It's not just a renter's problem. Health costs associated to fuel poverty are huge, and they impact across the country. This is affecting our children. It's affecting people's livelihoods and well-being. So when we talk about responsibility, it's not just finger pointing. I think this needs to be a broad focus which the government needs to be involved in, and for argument's sake, if more investment was put into upgrading rental properties to get to a minimum standard, there would be less needing to go into the ambulance at the bottom of the cliff health services. So it's responsibility which everyone needs to take a little bit of ownership for, but at the end of the day, the renters aren't responsible for the condition of the house. They're responsible for ensuring that they treat the house properly, but the actual thermal envelope of the house is not their responsibility.
Because you have actually given first-hand encounters from Kiwis living in quite cooler homes. What are some of the stories that you've heard?
Some of the most common stories we hear and our members see is families living in one room for the whole of winter. So that room might be the lounge where there is maybe an electrical source of heating. So they sleep in that room, they live in that room. The only time they move is to go to the bathroom or to leave the house. So that's probably one of the most common situations. We also hear of people using the oven to heat the home. and families sleeping in one bed, which sounds cosy and nice for maybe a night or two, but it actually leads to quite significant health problems if that continues. So they're the most common issues that we hear of.
And how many New Zealanders do you think really are affected?
A lot of research has been done in this space, and it's about a quarter of New Zealand households which have they're either at risk or already been affected of the issues that fuel poverty cause. That's
a shocking statistic. A quarter of our people potentially at risk of major third world diseases.
Yeah, it's pretty horrifying. So warmerwinters.org.nz includes the survey. So as many people as we can get to do that survey, the more information, the more compelling information we can get to put forward our case for minimum energy performance standards.
If you would like to find out more, visit warmerwinters.org.nz and you can fill out the survey there as well. If you have just joined us, welcome to Central News. New Zealand Transport Agency are asking you, the members of the public, to submit your feedback on the proposed changes to the child restraints legislation. David Perks gives us the facts.
Okay, under the Land Transport Act, children have to be restrained between 0 and under 5 years of age. What we're saying is that needs to change, and so the amendment is suggesting it should be between 0 and under 7 years of age. So it's increasing that age restriction by another 2 years.
So why is this amendment rule being proposed?
Okay, what we're seeing is a significant number of children in that 5 to 7 year age group being adversely affected, seriously injured in vehicles, and what we're saying is it's due to them not being properly restrained. By putting in this amendment, it means they have to be in booster seats or the appropriate child restraint, so it should reduce and hopefully diminish the number of deaths and serious injuries that occur.
In the event of an accident, what could happen to a child aged 5 to 7 who is seated without a booster seat?
Okay, what we're finding is when you're in a vehicle, your seatbelt is designed for the average size human being. So what it means is it's really designed for an adult. And so what you get is children's legs are too short, so they sort of slide down in the seat a bit. And so what happens is the lap part of the belt actually sits higher. It's supposed to sit on the pelvic area, the pelvic bones, but it actually sits in the sort of the abdominal area. And so what happens is if you get a sudden stop, it goes into that soft tissue and you get very serious internal injuries from that. The other part is the part that comes across the midriff area or neck area. You get very serious neck injuries and spinal injuries because it's sitting up a lot higher. And so what we're trying to do is if you put the child up to the right height, and also a lot of them actually restrain where the belt goes, it means you'll be sitting properly and you'll get the proper level of restraint you need.
So what are the current statistics of deaths and injuries to children aged 5 to 7?
Okay, so in total we have in that 5 to 7 age group we have 930 children that have received some sort of injury, and that's minor, serious or death. If we look at death, there has been 25 children that have been killed, and serious injury 109. So I mean there's a lot that are the minor injuries, but what we're saying is we're really trying to prevent that serious injury category. And so it's quite significant over the period we collected the statistics, which is 2002 to 2011.
And how do our current child restraint laws compare internationally?
We're way out of kilter with the rest of the world. Australia 0 to 7, Canada 0 to 10, most other countries are 0 to 12. And we do recognise that there's a significant cost to families of having boosters for long periods of time, and also it's really hard. If you've got a 12-year-old, it's very difficult to actually keep them in a booster seat. So what we're trying to do is be realistic, and we're trying to aim it at an age group where we think we can really make a difference.
How can members of the public get involved and add their thoughts to this proposal?
Okay, so as I say, at the moment it's only a proposal. The proposal closes, or the suggestion that we need to make those changes closes 3rd of April, and people can make submissions on that. To make submissions, they can either write into the New Zealand Transport Agency, or they can do it online. And if they go to the New Zealand Transport Agency website, which is www.nzta.govt.nz, and then go to consultation, it's got, under the consultation, it's got child restraints, and they click on that, they can get all the information they need, as well as putting in a submission.
Now, as you mentioned, there could be financial difficulties for some families if this proposal were to go ahead. So would the government perhaps help with those families with more than one child?
Yeah, my understanding is that certainly those families that are on the benefit, that find it really hard to make ends meet, they will be entitled to some sort of payment to be able to afford booster seats. So it will be subsidised or paid for them in total. So yeah, they do get some sort of financial help. In saying that, I mean, the cost of the booster seat ranges somewhere from $30 to a really expensive one of about $130, $140. So, I mean, you know, we're not saying you have to go to the extreme end, but it is affordable for most families.
So when do submissions close, and how will the final decision be made?
Okay, so the submissions will close on the 3rd of April, and the final decision is made by the Minister of Transport. So what will happen is all of the submissions will be gathered together, all of that information will be collated, put before the Minister, and the Minister will be the person that signs off and makes that final decision.
And are there any other changes proposed?
Yeah, there's 2 others. So, I mean, the main one is that increasing the age from 0 to under 7 in terms of child restraints. But the 2 others are, at the moment, there's an anomaly in the Land Transport Act, which means if a child needs an exemption so they shouldn't be wearing a seatbelt for medical reasons, it's only if they're 5 years and older. What we're saying is it should be for any age child. So we're extending the exemption to cover all children of all ages. The second one is for a heavy vehicle, which is a vehicle that's 2,000 kilograms unladen or over. At the moment, if it isn't fitted with seat belts, you don't need to restrain your child. What we're saying is in the future, it doesn't matter on the weight of the vehicle, you do have to have a child restraint in place, and so that exemption will disappear for those type of vehicles.
So tell me, why do you think that this change is necessary?
It's to do with the safety of children. I think what we're seeing at the moment is there is a number of children that experience death, serious injuries, minor injuries in that 5 to 7 year category, which we could actually prevent. By putting into place this change, we're going to stop that happening.
That is the news for today. We really want you to be involved, so like us on Facebook and let us know your views. If you have any news, including your own video and photos, go to our website and hit upload. Thanks for joining us. I will be back tomorrow night with more guests from in and around our regions. I'm Amy Forrest. Have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.